Okay, Chair, I'm handing the meeting over to you. We are now live on YouTube.
Thank you very much. Good morning and welcome to East Devon District Council's Virtual Licensing and Enforcement Subcommittee on the 14th of October 2020. I am your Chairman, Councillor Joe Wibley. I'd also like to welcome anyone watching the meeting via the live streaming. All participants here today are taking part remotely, and as well as being live streamed, the meeting is being recorded. So please bear this in mind throughout, and may I remind you to be careful with your language. May I also remind members that the Code of Conduct applies throughout this meeting, and we reserve the right to remove and disconnect any participant who is disrupting the meeting by whatever means. As this licensing meeting is dependent on an internet connection and a power supply, in the event of a break in the internet connection or power cut, please bear with us as we try to reconnect. After 15 minutes, if we're not able to reconnect, we will consider the meeting adjourned and reconvene at a later date. And you can find details of that on the committee page on the East Devon website. We please make sure that all phones are off or turned to silent, and keep microphones muted when you're not speaking to avoid any background noise levels. Please keep points short and do not repeat points that have already been made, and do not interrupt. If you wish to comment, please raise your electronic blue hand and wait to be called. All councillors have been sent an agenda for today's meeting, and any members of the public who wish to view it can do so at www.eastdevon.gov.uk. So we're going to start the meeting by doing a roll call of committee members. Can you unmute your microphone, and when you hear your name, say you are present. Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Joe Wibley.
I am here, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Kim Bloxham.
Present.
And Councillor Tom Wright.
Present.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so move to agenda item 1, the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 27th of July. If could you raise your blue hand if you have anything to comment about those minutes? If I don't see any blue hands, we will see that as that you have ratified the minutes of the last meeting. I see no blue hands. Okay, so those minutes are noted. Okay, agenda item 2, apologies. I don't think we have any apologies. We all seem to be here. Agenda item 3, any declarations of interest? So this will again be done by a roll call. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Wibley.
I have no declarations of interest.
Thank you. Councillor Bloxham.
None, thank you.
And Councillor Wright.
None, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, we move to agenda item 4, matters of urgency, and I believe there are no matters of urgency. And item 5, there are no confidential or exempt items to discuss. So the main reason for today's meeting, we move to agenda item 6, the determination of an application to license a Hackney carriage vehicle, which has been previously classed as a Category S write-off. The members today are myself, Councillor Joe Wibley as Chairman, Councillor Kim Bloxham and Councillor Tom Wright. The council officers present are Lucy Maxwell, Licensing Officer, who will be outlining the application, Amanda Coombs, a Democratic Services Officer, who will be taking a full note of the hearing, Sarah Jenkins, supporting the Democratic Services Officer, and Mr. Giles Salter, a council solicitor, who is acting as a legal advisor to the committee. Excuse me. This is a hearing into an application for a taxi licence. I'd now like to identify who is present, who has already given notice to the council in writing that they wish to address the subcommittee and their representatives. Is the applicant or his agent here?
Yeah.
Mr. Matthews, is that you? Are you there?
Mr. Matthews?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Jolly
Yeah,
good.
Okay. Do you have any witnesses that you wish to call other than yourself?
No.
Okay. Well, welcome to the subcommittee meeting. I'll just go through this. It is the council's policy that a vehicle, e.g. a taxi, which has been categorised as a category C or D or now S, write-off by the relevant insurance company under the Code of Practice for the Disposal of Motor Salvage, may be considered for licensing by the Licensing and Enforcement Subcommittee, subject to higher levels of examination and vehicle reports. Where examinations provide any cause for the safety of the public, such applications may be refused. Please note that in October 2017, the Association of British Insurance changed the write-off categories, but this is not yet reflected in the licensing policy for hackney carriages. Private hire vehicles, private and drivers and private hire operators, category S is now the equivalent of the former category C. Okay, so the subcommittee members have read any documents submitted by the parties in advance of the hearing. Any document that anyone has brought with them today may only be required by the hearings regulations. Anyone wishing to introduce further documentary evidence should make that request immediately before they begin to address the subcommittee. The maximum time for any party to address us, including their witnesses, will be 10 minutes. Where I think it helpful, I may choose to lead a discussion, as that way it may be the most effective way of identifying key concerns and possible solutions. And I do wish to avoid a formal cross-examination. I will allow questions at appropriate points. So the subcommittee's legal advisor will briefly go through the procedure for today's meeting, including closure powers. Giles.
Yeah, actually there aren't any closure powers because I think that the script is referring to an alcohol license as opposed to a taxi license. So anyway, so we're here for a taxi vehicle license hearing, and so it takes the form basically of the chairman will first of all invite the licensing officer just to outline the papers and go through any last minute changes in the papers that can be identified. There then can be questions from the committee of any clarification they want, or from the applicant. Once that is complete, we then hear from the applicant, who can make his case about the vehicle, why he wants to license it, etc., and go through the papers with the committee. Committee can ask questions, can be a discussion, and then once the committee has decided they've heard the application, they will then retire to make their decision. If at any time the committee want clarification on any legal points, I will go into the, as it were, the hearing room to give that legal advice. I'll then come out and obviously tell Mr. Matthews what it is that the committee were asking. The committee will then come back into the room, give their decision, and the decision will be there on the day. I think that's all I really want to say at this point. Thank you, Chair.
Joe, you're muted.
I've never done that before. Okay, Mr. Matthews, can you just acknowledge now that I'm not muted that you can hear me?
I can hear you.
Excellent, thank you. So before I invite you to speak, we'll hear first from the licensing officer, Lucy, who will present a report on your application. Lucy.
Thank you, Chair. Just checking you can hear me.
Yeah.
Lovely. So as you have summarised, the purpose of today's hearing is for the committee to consider licensing a vehicle which has previously been classed as a write-off. and to be satisfied that the works carried out to rectify the damage have been done to a satisfactory standard for the vehicle to become licensed as a hackney carriage. The vehicle is a 5-seater, 4-door, 2016 Peugeot Horizon, in which 2 of the rear seats fold down to accommodate a wheelchair user, which is the normal setup for such vehicles. The vehicle is a Category S write-off, which is defined as repairable structural damage as per paragraph 1.7 in the report. So following works to rectify the initial write-off damage, you'll note that the vehicle failed an MOT on the 7th of July. And then Mr. Matthews has carried out the relevant works as identified, and the vehicle then passed the MOT on the 8th of July with no advisories. The vehicle has also passed a more detailed vehicle inspection, as with all East Devon licensed taxis, and this report can be shown in Appendix G. You'll note that there was no fails on that either. The only categories that weren't ticked were those for the requirements for a licensed hackney carriage, for example, the roof sign, the first aid kit, fire extinguisher, which Mr. Matthews has subsequently put onto the vehicle. The vehicle has then undergone further scrutiny with a comprehensive AA report, which is shown in Appendix I. And this has picked up on some further issues which were recommended for repair. And Mr. Matthews has provided receipts to evidence the works carried out, which are shown in Appendix D. Mr. Matthews has also helpfully summarised the works in his emails in Appendix C, which gives you an overview of the timeline and the repairs that have been done to the vehicle. Just to note that the many of the repairs were carried out by Sidmouth Body Repairs, which is a reputable local damage repair centre. I believe Mr. Matthews has sort of faced a premium cost for that, so it's brought the vehicle up to a good standard. With the committee being virtual, Mr. Matthews has provided some video clips of the vehicle, which hopefully you will have all seen. The committee will see from these videos that the vehicle meets all other requirements of becoming a hackney carriage, including having a roof sign fitted and the fare meter. As the Chair has summarised, the vehicle write-off categories were changed in 2017, and our taxi policy is in the process of being brought up to date with the new categories. But to connect with our current policy, Category S has replaced the former Category C, and where this is stated in our policy, such vehicles may be considered for licensing by the Licensing and Enforcement Subcommittee, subject to higher levels of examinations and reports. And I therefore ask the committee to consider the reports and the information provided by the applicant in respect of licensing. In doing so, I just want to remind the committee of the further requirements for wheelchair accessible vehicles, which is shown in Appendix J, which hopefully you should all now have. And which you will find Mr. Matthews has gone above and beyond to meet prior to this hearing today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Lucy. First off then, do we have any questions to Lucy about this from members? We have a doorbell. Okay, Councillor Bloxham.
Yes, thank you. I think actually Lucy might have just answered it, but you referred to Appendix J, Lucy, which was not on the website, but members did get a copy after I raised the fact that it wasn't on the website for us to see. Are you happy that all those requirements have been met by Mr. Matthews?
Yes, yeah, this is one of the things I queried with Mr. Matthews prior to today, and he has met all those criteria. He's ordered the extra sort of grab handles and things that were required, and it does now meet all those criteria.
Thank you. And my second point was that, I raised that I was slightly confused by the way the wording is in item point 3.2, because it appears to me that we should be considering to only license the vehicle under exceptional circumstances, whereas the reason it is at subcommittee, as you've already explained, is that it's because it comes under a Category S, and therefore under the policy it has to be considered by the committee. Am I right in that?
Yes, yeah, I think it's the sort of wording of the policy needs a bit of looking at there, but it's effectively an exception to the policy. So officers don't have the discretion to license a
thank you.
which is why it falls to you.
Yeah, that answers it. It's an exception to the policy, not okay.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
It's delegated to the committee. It's delegated to the committee as opposed to the officer to license, even though it fulfills all the criteria.
Absolutely understand that, but I felt that 0.32 made it that we could only award the license if we felt there was a section of circumstances. So,
No.
but Lucy's,
yeah.
Thank you. Lucy's explained that now. Thank you, Lucy.
Okay.
Okay, that's great. I have to say, I sort of felt the same when I read it. It did seem as if there would need to be something, a really, really good reason to do it rather than if it doesn't meet those criteria. But okay, no, that's fine. That clarifies that. Do we have any more questions from members? Okay, do we have any questions to Lucy regarding this from the applicant, Ms. Matthews?
No, everything's fine.
No, brilliant. Okay, so Mr. Matthews, you've got 10 minutes to speak regarding the application if you need all 10. Sarah will time you. You have 10 minutes and we'll give you a 30-second warning. Okay, so Mr. Matthews.
I don't think it'll take any time because everything is put there in writing. You've got all the information. I've got nothing really more to say than you've already had.
Okay, if you're sure.
The only thing is obviously wheelchair vehicles are at a premium in East Devon. I think we're probably the only one who's got them. And so that's the only sort of point of extra that makes it extra special.
No, that's fine. Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Do any interested parties, so anybody in the meeting, do we have any questions for Mr. Matthews at all? Councillor Chapman, do you not have any questions? Okay.
You just want me to say something, Chairman? No, I think because it is a wheelchair taxi and they are in very short supply, I think if you could award him the licence, then I think it should be a public service.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chapman. That is noted. Councillor Bloxham.
Yeah, thank you. I've got no questions because I actually think it was a very comprehensive report and lots of backup information provided. But I'd also like to say thank you to Mr. Matthews providing the video, because the videos were easy to look at and it's not the same as looking at a vehicle, but I do think it assisted in our understanding and reading the reports as well. So that's it really. Thank you.
Yeah, I would echo that, Mr. Matthews. I think you made it really, really clear what you've done.
I can't take credit for that. Lucy told me to do it.
Well done, Lucy. Thank you, Lucy. Councillor Wright.
Yes, just to endorse what Councillor Bloxham has said, really, and to congratulate, congratulate the officer on the report, which tells us everything we need to know. And I will endorse that there genuinely is a need for such vehicles. And we've had some registered, but they are much bigger than this. One of the attractions about this vehicle is it is small and can get into some of our narrower roads and lanes. And I do have some knowledge. I have a cousin who's a wheelchair user, and she bought one of these vehicles from the same, had it amended by the same supplier, and they are ideally suited for use by wheelchair users.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Wright. That's noted. Do we have any more questions from interested parties? No? Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Matthews. We will now rather cruelly remove you to the waiting room, as is the phrase. And then we will have a discussion and we'll reconvene the meeting in a little while.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
Can I just, now that Mr. Matthews is in the waiting room, can I just say that if members of the